Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Veterans have scored another big win when it comes to qualifying for benefits. There are so many benefits out there. When you're talking about the veteran sphere, there's so many that it's hard to keep track of them all, especially if this is not something that you do on a daily basis. So there's many nooks and crannies with regard to veterans benefits, whether you're talking about state benefits, national benefits, you're talking about other benefits within the federal government that's not in the VA specifically. There's a lot. So with that, there is a huge win for veterans that just came out. There's an article on it. I'm going to jump into it and read that for you. But before I do, I wanted to just kind of give a little front load of what the topic is, explain very briefly how it works, essentially, and then we'll dive into the article to see what sort of things changed. So, this is regarding HUD Vash. Some of you may know what this is, but I guarantee that the majority do not. HUD Vash is a program that through the Housing and Urban Development, and VASH, the VASH portion, is Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing. Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing. So HUD Vash, essentially, when you hear HUD Vash, it's kind of like Section 8 housing, for those that understand what that is. Again, maybe most of you don't know. However, what it does is it's essentially a subsidy. It's money given to, I guess, not really you, the veteran, but your landlord to help offset the rent for you, the veteran. Okay, so essentially it's keeping money in your pocket because the federal government is paying part of your housing expense. So it is a great program, and there was a big change that's starting to turn within regard to eligibility. Now, before I jump in, I wanted to thank H.L. Walsh. Thank you so much for that super thanks comment. I really appreciate it. Those are very, very wonderful, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. So we're going to jump into the article here. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. If you want to support the channel in other ways, please consider being a member. You can do that by going to the home page. You'll see the highlighted members there and a join button. You can click that and become a member. I appreciate all of you members at any level. It really does actually support the channel, and I really do absolutely appreciate it. So with that, let's jump into this article here. The headline is HUD eases income requirements to help disabled homeless veterans get housing. Now, I want to throw out there that there's some different aspects with regard to benefits for becoming, whether you're at risk of becoming homeless or you are a homeless veteran out there. Now, you can utilize your local, there's a lot of nonprofits out there that receive what's called SSVF grant funding. SSVF is Supportive Services Veterans Families. And those nonprofits, work hand in hand with a bunch of the HUD Vash folks throughout the nation. And they get what's called these vouchers, and they get so many for each county that then they can assign to veterans in need of some additional assistance, which again is really keeping money in your pocket, which is a good thing. So before I jump into it, just as a, I guess, side note, so you understand that I have some sort of idea of what I'm talking about. I was a director for a nonprofit covering a couple counties, big counties with millions of people between the two, where I was the director. Stan's like, who cares? Move on. All right, so anyway, I was the director of a nonprofit where we received SSVF grant funding, and so I worked that for homeless veterans and at risk of becoming homeless veterans. I also was the director of a Veteran Service Office where we actually did benefits, both state and federal and all that stuff, for half a decade. So anyway, thanks, Stan. I get you. All right, so let's jump back into this. So advocates for veterans have been fighting Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD, on the issue of disabled veterans' health benefits counting as income. Yes. Here's the issue. For HUD Vash, it's income based, and the problem is that HUD Vash was always counting all of the income from disability compensation, and in some cases, 100% disability compensation was pushing people out of the qualifying numbers, right? So it was an issue, and in high cost areas, and it's like you can't even survive on that, let alone find any place to live. So in any case, that fight has been going on for a while. The next sentence here is, this week, however, HUD changed that. Big news. Let's go on. The federal agency said it would not count those benefits as income. Even Stan's excited about that. So the federal agency, HUD, said it will not count those benefits as income. If you have tried to get HUD Vash before, well, if you didn't qualify based on income, you might want to relook at it, because your door could open now. So it moves on to say that means about 4,000 homeless veterans in Los Angeles, which is where this news article came from. So they're going to obviously target Los Angeles. So 4,000 homeless veterans in Los Angeles will be eligible for housing. Moving on, there's a quotation here. We met last week in Washington, D.C., a whole group of us with members of Congress and folks from the VA and the Biden administration. And when they see what it's like for the veterans in Los Angeles in and around the LA VA, there's no doubt that they had to take action, said long lead editor John Patrick Pullen. His studio produced the documentary Home of the Brave, which looks into the plight of homeless veterans in LA. LA County Supervisor Barger released a statement on the policy change, calling it an overdue and much welcomed policy change. Raising the income eligibility threshold and excluding, this is huge, excluding service-connected disability benefits is undoubtedly a good move that'll have a big ripple effect in Los Angeles County. I'm going to say the nation. She said, locally, our efforts to house some of our most vulnerable veterans will be dramatically improved because more veterans will qualify. So now remember that HUD Vash is distributed as vouchers, right? You get so many people can get this subsidy, whatever, in each one of the counties throughout the nation. And so what happens is, you may or may not be aware, every year they do what's called a PIT count, point in time count of homeless, like a canvas throughout the nation of homeless folks. And then they try to identify how many homeless veterans are there in each city and each county and so on. They submit those numbers up. The numbers get tallied up. The more homeless people you have, the more money you get. And I already get it, the homeless industrial complex, right? The more homeless we got, the more money we'll get. It's a weird dynamic. Anyway, so back to focus on just the veteran aspect of it. If you have X number of veterans that are homeless in your specific county, that number translates into a certain number of vouchers that will become eligible in that specific county for HUD Vash, which is, that subsidy, I can't say it, that money that will be utilized to lower the amount that you need to pay for rent. All right, so moving on. Meanwhile, inside a federal courthouse in downtown LA, there's a trial going on about what to do with housing at the VA facility in Westwood. HUD and the VA are accused of not providing enough, with 14 veterans suing. So apparently there's a lawsuit with 14 veterans suing HUD and VA. Not sure what's going on. Anyway, moving on. With HUD's new ruling, which is really what I'm talking about, they're now saying that they're not going to count disability compensation as income, which I think is good. Which I think is a good thing. And the test of how this will all work will be when I see our most disabled veterans actually getting into that housing in the West LA VA, said Robert Reynolds, a veteran advocate and trial participant. The judge's ruling will not affect what happens in the city, but across the country as well. Interesting. So that's something else to, I guess, look into. But the big piece here is that if you ever filed for or applied for HUD Vash and you got disqualified because your income was too high, primarily because of your disability compensation, well, guess what? That has changed. You might be able to re-engage with that, and that could be life-changing. The other piece here is, and just to kind of set the stage, you could be in a situation to where you can't work, right? You end up getting TDIU, and that TDIU paid you on at 100%. The 100% was too high based on HUD Vash's qualifications or eligibility factors, right, for income, and then you get kicked down to that, and now you're in a very tight situation, especially depending on where you're living. And so now all of a sudden that income is not counting as actual income for qualifications purposes for HUD Vash. This is a huge deal that people need to be aware of. So please, again, if you hung on till the end, please make sure you hit that thumbs up. If subscribe if you haven't. Share it with somebody if you can. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.